Tonight, an aggressive advertising tactic that you may not be aware of. Companies could be monitoring consumers through billboard signs. Is this going too far? ABC's Marcia Gonzalez with the story.
Tonight, concerns over whether some of the billboards you pass every day are spying on you. New York Senator Chuck Schumer sounding the alarm.
Your every move could be tracked, recorded, and stored.
The concern, certain billboard companies using cell phone data to target consumers. Billboard giant Clear Channel explaining on its website how its program works.
Radar measures consumers' real-world travel patterns and behaviors as they move through their day.
All of that data to figure out what to advertise and where.
I think it's a bit intrusive.
Schumer now calling for a federal investigation.
Here's the bottom line. A personal cell phone should be just that, personal. It shouldn't be a James Bond-like tracking device for a corporation.
Clear Channel telling ABC News the data they get comes from a third party like your cell phone provider and that all data is anonymous. Some experts likening it to clicking on an item online and having its advertisement follow you as you browse.
Whether it's via your browser, your mobile browser, or a billboard, we are all being tracked in some way, shape, or form.
Even in the driving rain, Venezuelans started their day in search of food, expecting to see the usual grim queues that form at government stores. Not today. The only stores with affordable food are shut. Closed for the National Workers' Holiday, the sign explains. It says sorry and thank you. People walked away empty-handed but full of dread, wondering where their next meal might come from. I asked Julian Perez what he needs.
All
the basics. I have nothing at home. Sometimes I go hungry. Who can say that we, the people, aren't hungry right now?
And here's the thing. These people aren't allowed to come back tomorrow. Food is rationed here, doled out according to the last number on your government ID. Carlos Chirinos explains his turn is today. His number is 5.
Cinco. Hoy me toca a mí. Cinco. Hoy y el miércoles.
El miércoles. So he's saying that just today and Wednesday can he buy things, and because it's closed today, he's out of luck.
Paola. So too is Lady Snanes. With 2 children and one on the way, she is raising her kids with no food in her cupboards and barely any in the fridge. Venezuela is sitting on the world's largest proven oil reserves, but it can't stock the nation's refrigerators. This is all I have, she tells me, as I ask about milk. When I find it, she says, they have milk. And even at 6 months pregnant, sometimes with a child on each hand, she lines up for as many as 18 hours to find anything to eat. Janet de Bolivar shows us all she has, too. She says it took her 3 weeks of queuing to stock this much, a shop that would have normally taken about an hour. This is not the worst of it for this family. Janet introduces us to her daughter Yazde, who explains the country is out of medicine, too. And there's no line you can wait in for that.
Cancer waits for no one. I'm worried about my own health and the health of so many others who are going through this right now.
Yazde is holding unfilled prescriptions for chemo. And she says no doctor, no hospital can tell her when she'll get treatment.
It pains me to see Venezuela in the state that it's in right now. But what really makes my heart ache is the thought of not being here for my daughter tomorrow.
3 generations of Bolivars are counting on things to change in Venezuela. But like so many on this day, they cling to patience, hope, and very little else.
They're cleaning up in Baghdad after yet another car bomb attack. The bombing was among 3 to strike the Iraqi capital on Monday and was the deadliest, killing more than 10 and wounding 30. Islamic State has claimed responsibility. Many of the casualties were Shiite Muslim pilgrims on their way to the shrine of the Imam Musa al-Qadim, a great-grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. While security has improved in Baghdad since the daily bombings of a decade ago, authorities say these latest attacks show that a determined enemy is almost impossible to stop.
This morning, an entire Canadian city on the run.
The wildfire scorching more than 18,000 acres in just 4 days. A state of emergency declared across the Alberta province. Nearly 90,000 people caught in an unprecedented exodus. The nearest gas station that wasn't burned down ran out of fuel for a time. Food supplies and cell service pushed to the limit. The escape, harrowing.
Lord, keep us safe. Get us out of Fort McMurray in one piece.
Residents forced to drive by huge walls of flames.
You can feel the heat. This is insane.
Before hitting gridlock on the only highway out of town. Video taken on the fly, capturing the otherworldly scene. Oh! Among these evacuees, 2 reported deaths on the road. Unpredictable winds driving the flames, leaping roads, and gutting an estimated 1,600 structures. This motel engulfed. Rows and rows of homes leveled. Cars abandoned in driveways, reduced to charred skeletons.
They didn't even let us take our things when we asked them. So we lost everything.
Blankets of smoke and ash choking Fort McMurray. The danger far from over. This morning, the blaze turning the airport into a tinderbox, inching ever so close. All commercial flights have been suspended.
Major League Baseball has just announced that it is moving 2 games out of Puerto Rico because of concerns over the Zika virus.
Rob Powers in the newsroom's got the latest details. Rob.
May 30th and 31st, the Pirates and the Marlins were to play a 2-game series in San Juan, Puerto Rico. That plan now has been scrapped amid concerns over the Zika virus. The announcement comes from Major League Baseball and its players' union. There were efforts to address concerns of the players, but not enough to ease those concerns, so those games have now been moved to Miami. MLB says it looks forward to returning to Puerto Rico in, quote, the near future. Numerous players apparently expressed their concern over the Zika virus. Liz?
This morning, Fort McMurray is exploding into an all-out fire emergency. The massive fire is growing in several directions, taken on by 1,200 firefighters, 110 helicopters, and nearly 30 air tankers. The threat far from over. Overnight, the fire visible from space. The fast-moving wall of flames now chewing through an area bigger than all of New York City. People on the run have captured their fiery escapes from every angle, including this home, recording its own demise with a security camera. Watch and listen as the roaring flames rise up outside the windows, filling the home with smoke and the sounds of shattering glass. Time-lapse inside the northern Alberta town, which has lost some 1,600 structures, shows flames sweeping through an airplane hangar. Brian Jones and his team have rescued 27 animals in 24 hours, left behind as their owners ran for their lives.
Cats, dogs, birds, had a snake that got out in my truck.
Dan Supal and his family among 1,500 cars escorted through the fire zone on a surreal commute after being cut off north of the city where they'd fled days earlier.
So what's it been like driving through there?
Well, it's been mostly like an apocalyptic horror.
Overnight, a piece of good news as a mother and son, separated in the chaos of their escape, are finally reunited.
It's okay, Mommy's here, okay? I'll never go anywhere, okay?
The fire is growing, but fire officials are quick to point out it is growing away from civilization into heavily forested areas, and that should help.
Protests and scuffles all weekend in Athens as Parliament got set to debate unpopular tax and pension reforms. The demonstrations didn't stop Greek lawmakers from passing a controversial bill in the early morning hours of Monday, one that the leftist-led government of Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras hopes will persuade the country's creditors to unlock bailout cash. The new measures aim to make sure that Athens will boost tax revenues and slash pension spending enough to regain access to the bond markets. Athens must lower its pensions, some of the most expensive in the Eurozone, if it wants to qualify for a fresh installment of the latest international bailout, worth up to 86 billion euros. But the opposition said during the fiery debate the new reforms will prove recessionary and will deal yet another blow to a population already fatigued by years of austerity. protesters demonstrated for 3 straight days and had vowed to continue to fight the measures even if the vote passed.
Appearing in a dark business suit, Kim Jong-un signals to his enemies what could provoke him to launch a nuclear warhead.
Our republic will not use a nuclear weapon unless its sovereignty is encroached upon by any aggressive, hostile forces with nuclear weapons.
But would Kim only play defense with nuclear weapons? His regime has declared it is expanding its nuclear force, quote, in quality and quantity.
It doesn't appear that North Korea wants to slow down its nuclear weapons program. It appears that they want to make more nuclear weapons, and they want to make those weapons more deadly.
Tonight, U.S. officials tell CNN they're preparing for a provocation from North Korea. A U.S. intelligence official says it's expected the regime will again test a nuclear bomb. The monitoring group 38 North released new satellite images of the Punggye-ri nuclear test site, which it says indicate a test could come soon.
There's still vehicles at the test site, but there's reduced activity at the test site, and that could be an indication of overall clearing out in preparation for actually conducting a test.
The latest assessment from weapons experts is that the ambitious, unpredictable North Korean leader now has between 10 and 20 nuclear bombs and as many as 8 types of missiles which can deliver them. He likely can miniaturize his warheads to fit on medium-range missiles that can hit South Korea, Japan, or the U.S. territory of Guam. Analysts say they can probably fit a warhead onto a long-range missile capable of hitting the U.S., but they haven't flight-tested those missiles to survive re-entry. The danger? Even when a North Korean test fails, this regime succeeds.
Every time they conduct a nuclear test, they resolve a technical puzzle, or they overcome a technical problem which they had before.
This comes as Kim closes his Workers' Party Congress. Analysts say this event, following his bloody purges of top generals, crowns Kim's effort to shift power away from his military and toward himself.
The military has been, for all intents and purposes, neutered within the leadership. The key positions of power within the leadership have been turned over multiple times. So I see it highly unlikely that the military can challenge Kim Jong-un at this point.
In fact, this Workers' Party Congress is seen as a sort of coronation for Kim. But as he elevates his own power and the generals lose theirs, experts are worried tonight that at a moment of crisis there may not be a top general with enough power, enough influence to warn Kim against using a nuclear weapon.